A logo is more than just a logo. It is a voice. It is the recognition of this brand. And in this instance, it was, why would somebody want to pick this laundromat over another?
So let's talk a little bit about your background in design. You went to an art school.
Yes. I did. So in art school, they prepared us for the real world with portfolio, and it was probably 6 to 8 different projects, just giving it our all, as creative as we could be with it. And then from those portfolio pieces, those are what we showed all of our future employers to try to sell ourselves.
Did you get to work on like real world clients? Did you have any of that experience?
Yeah, we had the flexibility to choose a real client or also like just a made up one. Like I came up with a laundry
I remember that
company.
From your portfolio. Yeah, I loved that one. That was so fun.
I had made it up, and it was a project that I had really loved.
So when you were doing the made up laundry brand, were there certain elements that you needed to create for your portfolio beyond like just the logo?
Yeah, and our college had actually given us the flexibility to do pretty well whatever we wanted to do. And I had decided to do a website. I had some like a credit card and even like a laundry tab punch card.
Yeah.
I had done a couple of swag products, like a laundry bag and even like outdoor signage for the company.
Yeah.
And it was all made up, so.
Yeah, I think that's a good example though of like something like a laundromat, you know, like how do you take that and make it like someplace you want to go, you know, like you made it cute.
Something so simple and like a necessity.
Like if I saw that laundromat on a street, like downtown or something, I'd be like, that's cute. I would like to check that out. But you don't think about that. That's the power of branding, so.
Yes. I wanted to take like just your boring old 24-hour laundromat and kind of give it a voice and a personality. Yeah. A logo is more than just a logo. It is a voice. It is the recognition of this brand. And in this instance, it was, why would somebody want to pick this laundromat over another?
Yeah. You're influencing consumers. Yeah.
In school, they gave us the impression that every project is going to be different. It's always you're going to give all of your creative juices on a single project, whereas sometimes it's reoccurring. You'll get a print piece for the basement doctor, and then you'll take that piece a year later and you'll flip it and give it a different spin that it hadn't used. Whereas in school, it was, all right, so you're working for a coffee company, and then tomorrow you're working for something else. But sometimes you need to focus all of your attention on that one company.
Yeah, so they didn't necessarily prepare you for the variety of projects that you were going to be doing in an agency necessarily. Yeah, and so sometimes it is kind of repurposing designs for that brand again, you know, because they're doing the same events and whatnot.
Or taking an archive project and really giving it the modern twist that it needs.
Yeah.
So college prepares you to be creative in how to use all of the different programs. Coming here, I was tasked with a client called My DIY Center, and for them, it's more than just socials. It's print pieces and mailers, postcards. So at times, it's all My DIY Center. I don't see any other
can be
customers.
Repetitive,
Yes,
like you're using the same branding.
How can we take this branding and use it on different projects, different multitudes of what they may need?
Yeah, because you're kind of going across all platforms for one client. So so you can get stuck on the same brand for a while, unfortunately.
Sometimes it can be in weeks, and then we move on to another project.
Yeah, kind of how we are here. You know, like, you know, Nash is your baby, Nash Distribution is your baby, whereas, you know, Clean Extreme used to be Cheryl's baby. So it's like, that's how it sometimes works out here. You become kind of assigned to a brand because you do it so well, and then that just becomes your brand. You know, you kind of own it a little bit.
Yeah, one good example, you mentioned Nash. I have been working on their catalog for probably a year at this point, and
Yeah, that's
just
a great
bringing in
example.
like
Yeah.
new products that they have, and
Well, and when
adding,
you came, the catalog was, it was not pretty. Like when you came, it really needed a fresh life, and you took that branding that we had just redone for their website, I think at the time, or we had just kind of just touched on rebranding a little bit, and you really put all of that into the catalog and took something that, you know, could be kind of boring, you know, a crawl space product catalog, and really elevated it and made it like pleasant to look at and read, and like easier, I think, for the customers too.
yeah. And it actually happened where a lot of our branding assets came after the catalog.
Yeah, you couldn't have started it, so that was exciting.
So I went to art school. Let's hear a little bit about journalism school.
Yeah, so my background is a little bit different. I came to design through journalism school. I went to college thinking I was going to be a writer. I was going to be a reporter, and I actually was a food writer, and it was super fun, but kind of stressful, even for food. And when I found myself being more interested in how my article was laid out on the page, I knew that I had a bigger passion for design and page layout. So I kind of switched gears. I started working for the magazine there, doing all of the layouts and design, and just really fell in love with the typography. And that's where I started. So I started working in newspapers and doing layouts and local papers and ads for those. So that's just kind of where I fell into design. And then I did take a break for a little while and found invitations and events, and then found myself here just loving working with other designers and kind of mentoring them and leading them through their projects. So that's been a really kind of a fun evolution of where I started and where I am. When I was in school and coming from that journalism background, it was kind of just drilled into us content-driven design. Let the story dictate your design. And I think that even, you know, it is especially true in, you know, magazine layouts and print pieces. But I think in all marketing, you know, if you are trying to reach people through your content and your design, they have to be married to each other. There has to be a call to action, not just the pretty. It all has to kind of come together. So I feel like even though I may have come to marketing in a little bit of a different way, that foundation of content-driven design is really what has helped me build my career here and help to help other designers kind of, you know, work that way as well. You know, content-driven design obviously comes from a history of print publications, but it's really no different than what we're trying to achieve in our websites today or in any of our digital marketing, because content and design need to work together to be successful. Thinking about like we have such a variety of clients and projects, but I think one of my favorite things that we get to do is event design.
Yes. Yeah. So we often have the branding assets for these big clients, but then they'll throw these events like an Arts in the Alley event where all of the signage and tents, banners, even door hangers will have this other identity to it. Yeah. So it has to stay under the category of our Chamber of Commerce that we're designing this for, but it has its own personality as well. Yeah,
sometimes even a different logo that we have to work around and still make it all feel cohesive.
And it's often co-branded, so we need to make sure that that is clear as well.
Yeah, that's something I think a lot of people don't think about too. When you're partnering brands, how are those elements going to work together, and how can we make it so it's not just like a sea of logos and colors and brands? Like it all has to feel like a cohesive design.
And I know we often talk about what programs we've been using. Like I know you mentioned when you started out, you're using some company that I've never even heard of.
You probably never did hear of Quark Express, no?
No. I've only ever heard of Adobe. I use Adobe through and through. That's the very first program.
Yeah. It's become the standard for sure.
Yes.
Do you use the different programs for different projects? Or?
Yes. So Illustrator will always be my favorite. It gives me the flexibility of everything that I need to do. But InDesign I'm really coming to love.
I made you fall in love with InDesign when you came because of my newspaper background.
Yes, but I do all my catalogs, presentations. InDesign is, I love InDesign. Whereas Photoshop, it's all of your photo editing. And I do a lot of my social media or any kind of project that'll need kind of a smaller, like a web banner or an advertisement. I use Photoshop.
A lot of the digital projects, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's always changing, so you always have to be learning new things anyway. So.
Yeah, they're always rolling out new software versions, and you got to learn as it comes in.
Absolutely. When I graduated from school, our computer labs were all PCs, and we were using Quark Express. I can't even remember like what illustration software we were using, still Photoshop, Dreamweaver for websites. And then I graduated, and then they switched everything over to Adobe and Macs. And this is the same thing happened to me. I started at the newspaper on PC, on Quark, and then they switched everything over right as I got there. So I really just had to learn on the fly versus in school.
Whereas my generation was lucky in my career center. I started on a MacBook, and I always used the Creative Cloud.
Yeah.
And that's what I used in college, and that's what I use now.
That's why you teach me things all the time.